Hello, dear viewer, and welcome to another episode of the Catholic League Forum. We're going to continue our series today as we explore Bill Donohue's new book, The Truth About Clergy Sexual Abuse. If you're enjoying this, please remember to click the like button and subscribe. Now, Bill, last time we were talking about the role of the enabling bishops, and today we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about the molesting priests themselves and some of the myths on why they acted out. Because you do a great job in the book of laying out some of these myths. And I'm hoping today you might be able to talk us through some of these more prevailing ones that you see in the media. And so one of the big ones is celibacy, which I kind of find hard to believe is being an enabling factor.
Well, this is very popular with a lot of people. You know, the priests have urges like anybody else, so if you allowed them to marry, you wouldn't have this problem. It seems to suggest that if some guy who is sick and he's molesting somebody, that once you allow him to marry, he's going to choose that option. It's bizarre. Look, for the first 1,000 years in the Catholic Church's history, celibacy was optional, okay? Then it became encoded in the 12th century. As that was the expectation. Now it's a norm. We had to dial back to more recent times. Take a look at the decades just prior to when the sexual revolution happened inside the church as well as outside, which was the 1960s. Look at the priests in the 1940s and 1950s. Why weren't they acting out? They were celibate. We didn't have this problem. It's not like as if it wasn't reported. That's another lie. No. We didn't have this problem. There were very few priests who were involved in the sexual abuse of minors in the 1940s and 1950s, yet they were celibate. It happened once the sexual revolution took place in the 1960s, which is something totally independent of celibacy. So being celibate doesn't make you, doesn't trigger some kind of a id inside you that you're going to go out there and express yourself by molesting a youngster. That's simply nonsense.
Yeah. Another one that the fake news likes to throw around is that we have an all-male clergy. Can you explain why that's also a myth?
Well, you know, the Catholic Church is not the only religion which has an all-male clergy. You have the Orthodox churches, the Orthodox Christian churches. You have the Missouri Synod, the Lutheran Synod. You've got the Southern Baptist Convention, Mormons. You've got Orthodox Jews. You've got Islam. They all have an all-male clergy, and not everybody has the same problems. No, that's another dog. That's basically a tool that has been used by these people on the left who say we want women priests, we want married priests, and they'll use this as an example of, this doesn't make anybody do that. Look, almost all, as we're going to get to, almost all of the damage was done by homosexual priests. Why, if it were an all-male clergy with the problem, why wasn't it more heterosexual priests hitting on females as opposed to male priests hitting on males? So that argument just simply implodes.
Another one you point out is the opportunity thesis.
Yes. But look, this is a sociological understanding that, you know, you see the commercials on TV, don't leave your car door unlocked because it presents an opportunity for somebody. Well, there's some truth to that. In other words, if a kid is already a deviant and he sees a car unlocked, he might be more likely to pilfer something. But to the average kid, he's going to keep on going. Now, they're using the argument that it was more boys hit on than girls because of the opportunities that priests had with altar boys. But we've had altar servers as girls now for decades. We don't have an explosion of priests who are hitting on altar girls. It doesn't make any sense. I know it's convenient to say that. Well, that's because they have. Let me tell you something. It's why, and I put it in the book. I spent 4 years in military high school, boarding high school. 4 years in the United States Air Force. I've lived with guys. Guys don't have access to women. Guess what? They don't go out and start having sex with other guys. It doesn't happen unless you already were a homosexual. So that's a lie.
Yeah. Another one that the fake news again likes to hammer us with is Catholic moral theology in and of itself.
You know, it's amazing. I don't know whether it's stupidity, and it could be, or just pure dishonesty. The number of people on the left, in particular Catholic left, who try to say, well, it's because Catholic Church's teachings on sexuality was so rigid. That's why they acted out. Well, wait a minute. Hello now. If you want to relax the norms, wouldn't it make it more likely that people will act out? As a matter of fact, if you take a look at the 60s, 70s, and the early part of the 80s, that's precisely when the Catholic Church, particularly the seminaries, did relax its norms. And guess what happened? That's when we had the problem. No, the problem is not the teachings. It's the problem is that they didn't enforce the teachings, particularly in the seminaries in the 1970s. When they relaxed the teachings, that's when you had the problem. Nobody who's been told practice sexual reticence, practice restraint, and that's what you're taught with Catholic sexual ethics, then goes out and molests somebody. It's precisely somebody who abandoned Catholic teachings who went out and molested. It's the abandonment of the teachings, not the practice of them.
Another one you cite is homophobia.
Homophobia has nothing to do. Nobody was ever molested because of homophobia. There may be homophobes out there, but even if there are, how does that explain why Father X went out and molested somebody? That one's actually bizarre.
Okay. And another one, clericalism.
Yeah, clericalism, what I call elitism, we talked about it in an earlier segment, does explain why some bishops became enablers. But no youngster was ever molested because of clericalism. It's impossible. Something else was driving the priest to become a molester. That's a dodge, and I do criticize Rome on this. The Vatican Summit in 2019 was a disgrace. All the participants there, practically every one of them, talked about clericalism as the problem. That only addresses, in part, why some of the bishops enabled the molesters. It tells you zero about why the molester did what he did. That's a dodge.
Yeah. And one of the other myths you throw out is pedophilia and ebophilia. Can you explain what role they played?
Well, John Jay researchers found that about 3.5% of the priests who molested youngsters between 1950 and 2002 were pedophiles. In other words, prepubescent. Almost all of the damage done was with adolescents, with post-pubescents. So certainly pedophilia had almost nothing to do with it. But if it's not pedophilia and it's male-on-male sex, then it has to be homosexuality, which we're going to get to because of the lies told about that. In terms of ebophilia, ebophilia is a trash basket term. It has no real meaning. Ebophilia means that you're having sex with an adolescent. But how come it's never about a straight guy having sex with a teenage girl? You never hear of ebophilia. It's always about a male having sex with an adolescent. They don't want to call it homosexuality, so they invent this term, which has no clinical scientific worth whatsoever. But, the problem really is, I look at the work of Dr. Richard Fitzgibbon, as he has said, every single case he has found of a molesting priest, he had some involvement in homosexuality before. So that's where you got to go, and I know we're going to be addressing that very shortly. But before we do, we have to get rid of the mythology and debunk it, and I think we've done that today.
Yes, thank you, Bill, for talking us through this. And remember, dear viewer, if you are enjoying this series, remember to click the like and subscribe button. We appreciate it. Thanks.